The next change order comes to us as a result of some penthouse unit owners who are not pleased with the result of the exterior restoration from a cosmetic or aesthetic point of view. What we did when this was specified by the engineering consultant was to specify a repair that took what we had and waterproofed it. It did not look at design changes. For example, there weren't railings, there were balconies, and when in fact they were waterproofed and the pavers were put in, additional courses of brick were needed in the parapet walls to raise those parapet walls to keep things code compliant. When those parapet walls or the balcony walls were raised, it resulted for the unit owners in a higher wall in general, so that, for example, if they were seated in their living room, their dining room, where a wall was once at a height of 2 or 3 inches lower, it was now 2 or 3 inches higher. And they expressed concern about that. We all received some letters from the 2 people in Tower 3. And I think the reason we haven't received those letters yet from the people in Tower 2 and 1 is because they haven't faced this problem yet. But I think that they stand to face the same thing. Last week there was a meeting. Jim Stumpf joined Gene Ferrara, and the engineers went and looked at possible design changes that could accommodate these unit owners by keeping the balcony walls at a lower height but putting in a railing. In order to be code compliant, the wall must be 42 inches high. We'll raise the pavers on the floor to accommodate a proper roofing system, which hadn't been there before, and we raised the walls up. I think that bothered people. So they're willing to accept a railing. It had not been specified to begin with. I mean, I want to be clear, this isn't an error. We're making a change to the original design of the Galaxy. The original repair was in keeping with the design of the Galaxy. One of the downsides of this is that by installing a railing, you're now installing a penetration in the coping stone and coping stone cover. Whenever you do that, there's always the potential for leaks. But we do have that design system, for example, on the top of the plaza in the coping stones right now with the way the railings are set. So it's up to the board to consider this change order, which will result in an increase of $106,400 to the board of directors, well, to the Galaxy Towers, and that's pretty much what we're going to be approving today. There will be an additional cost in 5 locations to remove the courses of brick that have already been put in. That cost to redo the 5 locations that have already been done will be $42,500. To do the other 19 locations will be a cost of $106,400. There will be a credit to the Galaxy of approximately $37,000 back on the ways in which certain things won't be done moving forward on the other 19 locations.
I have one fast question. So the brick was, maybe you can help me out. So the brick was already put in. Now we're removing it.
That's correct. Only in the 5 locations where it was done.
How come our engineer or architect or our construction companies didn't know not to put the brick in? So now they're going to have to take it off, do double work, and it's going to cost us more money.
No. It's not that they didn't know.
They did it to code.
They did it to code, and they repaired the balconies in a manner consistent with the design of the building. There's no mistake here, Alan, although you're trying to say that. And this was explained earlier.
Well,
Gene explained this when you were here. You were here.
So they have to lower it now back to code.
No, they don't have to lower anything.
They're removing the brick.
Here's what we're doing.
Jim, let Jim, he's better.
What we're trying to achieve is that there's a couple of owners in Tower 3 that had a concern for the parapet wall. And what we did is we met with them. The parapet wall has to meet a certain code height. And we thought, and I think very highly, that what it's going to do is, one, it's going to make all of the people that have balconies very happy, because their view is going to be better than it ever was. Just similar to what we used to have by the sidewalk, that wide piece that you really couldn't see through. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drop down 4 courses of brick, which are going to give them a much better view And I just think it's the right thing to do. You have people here that spent a lot of money on the penthouses. Also, it's going to raise the values, I think, which is going to bring everybody's up. It's going to make everybody happy. We still have it in our budget. We're still going to be below budget. And I think that's the least we could do for the people in the penthouses. I think
So
it would be a very
removing-
nice look. We're going to
Remove brick that was already there.
We had to take down 2 courses of brick anyway. So now we're going to go down 4 courses of brick, and to accommodate
No, we
this.
didn't have to take down 2 courses of brick, we're within code.
No, we had to add 2 courses.
Right. I think what, you were in this meeting, this was explained
Well,
to you.
he's making it clear, and you have a different opinion, so don't just keep saying I was on
No,
the
I
meeting.
do not.
Gene made it clear.
We have
what was
exactly the
saying.
same opinion. Jim and I have exactly the same
So
opinion.
maybe he's presenting it better than you are.
Your question was, why wasn't this foreseen before the work was done, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, well, it was explained to you by Gene that in the redesign, in the design of,
The original building.
no, in the design of the restoration work, it was necessary to bring the wall up to meet current code. As it exists, it doesn't meet current code. They did this, and he explained to you
Correct.
that in doing this design, they said they followed code, which is standard good practice.
Good.
They didn't knock on people's doors and say, can we sit at your dining room table and see if we're going to be able to see over your balcony parapet after we raise it 2 inches?
Correct.
They didn't do that.
They didn't know
And
the
that-
views were going to be somewhat blocked.
They didn't know that.
Okay?
That's,
But it was actually
that's
more
your
than-
question.
Now
That's your
they're
question, I think, and it was,
making-
you asked, you didn't hear it, but it was explained to you an hour ago, 2 hours ago, whenever we were
It made a terrible difference. You'd be surprised how much you lost in the way of view. And I just think it's the right thing to do.
And so
So
now
I-
there's going to be an actual design change in the building. What we did was we followed the original design and
And
kept
code.
it code compliant.
This is
Now we're going to take down 2
No, but I think
courses
that
of
was the
brick.
import of the question, that somebody must be at fault.
Well, I
But
thought
now
they
we're
added
going-
layers of brick that they're now removing.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Because we're
Yeah.
going to change the design to
But
accommodate
you
this
don't, you don't
request.
see that as a,
There
as
had
an
never
error by
been
you.
a railing before. Now we're gonna take down 4 courses of brick and install a railing to be code compliant instead of a wall to be code
So
compliant.
there's a
Great.
bit
So
more.
what you're being
Great.
asked to approve or disapprove tonight is an actual design change to accommodate a request. But let's be clear here, because you're insinuating that there's a mistake made, and there has been no mistake made, and that was explained to
You're just
you
asking for clarification.
That's what it said.
Thank you for the
And
clarification.
if I could just add one thing to that, is that I think I got
No
involved at
insinuation.
one point in this, and the best of my understanding is that there was no mistake made, that it was, a sequence of events that were properly handled, but we now understand the situation better.
And
You're comfortable with that, Alan?
And Gene said if that's the...
Yes, I am comfortable with that. We can move on. I'd like to
I'd
vote.
like to add, may I just add one other thing to what Jim had said? May I just add one quick thing? I think it's important, and exactly what you're saying, Jim, and in addition, that we're gonna come up from time to time with some issues that affect only a certain number of the unit owners. And I think that though, if we are open in general to helping out each of those individuals where it doesn't hurt us enormously, everybody gains in total over the long run, because we're all going to have our needs met. And I think that it's important to make the accommodation you're talking
I
about.
agree. It's just like the concern when they were gonna do the building on the property over there. We came to the board and we all addressed it. This is an issue that has to be addressed. And they deserve the same rights as anybody else.
This particular issue also happens to be covered expressly by the master deed. There is no question but what the expense of this gets shared by all unit owners. That's the master deed.
Okay.
And there might, in another case where you want to accommodate the interests peculiar to a group of unit owners, might not be the same situation.
Oh, I understand that. I'm just saying as a general concept, if we're able to accommodate them, even if they're not a majority in this case, over the long term, we're going to have a series of groups.
Nothing to do with majority, minority. It's what the master deed says.
No, I understand that too.
Okay, let's call the question. All those in favor? Yeah, we do.
Actually, no, we don't have a motion.
I move the expenditure be approved.
I second it. All right, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. All right, I want to digress for one moment. Harlan, you want to do the